All righty. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of 1+1, your place for inconvenient your place for inconvenient truth-telling and myth-busting. On this edition, it's another one of our Make Me Want to Holler editions, all things Black America, Black Canada, Black Britain, all things the Black diaspora. And joining me to discuss Black America and other important topics is Kalonji Changa, a longtime social racial justice activist, anti-imperialist, and journalist. He is co-founder of Black Power Media, which covers news commentary which covers news, does commentary and analysis from a Black left perspective. He hosts a Renegade Siafu, and he was the former co-host of and panelist of Renegade Culture, which he did with the Ear Doctor and Kamau Franklin. And yeah, he's my guest for the hour. First of all, Mr. Changa, it's been a long time coming. You're finally here. Welcome to 1+1. It's an honor to have you.
Hey, honored to be here, Youri. I respect your show, respect the work you're doing. It's always good to see family that international family that that with the same goals. So I appreciate you pushing on. I appreciate your patience.
No problem.
I've been coming on the show for almost 9 months now. So
don't worry, it's all good. And actually, oftentimes the longer I wait for a guest to come on, the better the program often is. So it's no problem. I'm a very patient person. And so let's get started. So my first question I wanted to ask you, Mr. Changa, is So my first question is this: before we talk about Black America and the issues that's affecting our people in that part of Turtle Island, I have to ask this question, which is, what do you think it's going to take for the Black left, the Latinx left, eco-socialist, environmental justice groups, queer liberationist groups, feminists, anti-imperialist, Palestine justice groups, and even the broad multiracial workers movement to show more urgent solidarity to Native Americans and speak out more on the plight of Native Americans, indigenous Hawaiians, indigenous Alaskans, and the reason why I'm always curious Americans' response to this, but I'm very curious your response, because you actually have interviewed a couple of times and have done events with Ward Churchill, the very well-known member of the American Indian movement, and and a brilliant historian. So yeah, I'm curious your answer to that before we talk about Black America.
Cool. No, that's all the way live. I appreciate that question. First and foremost, I don't identify as an American. I'm gonna start with that. So
no problem.
I recognize. Yeah, I recognize for geographical purposes, we can say this is where I am or whatever, but I want to point out that my relationship to the Native community of this particular region, stems back in my own family. My great-great-grandfather is a man by the name of Sam Pace. And for folks who are familiar with Seminole history, Sam Pace was a man who U.S. Marshals, legend has it, came onto his land to take his brother Aaron. And he had a disagreement with these particular agents, and word was, with family history, 7 U.S. Marshals were returned on that day. And my great-great-grandfather ended up moving, and he moved to South Carolina and other places, and down the line you have someone like me, right? But aside from that, my organization, the organization that started 20 years ago, this is our 20-year anniversary this year, the FTP movement, we have strong community ties with the Native Youth Movement. We have strong community ties with members of the American Indian Movement, AIM, and several other different families, shall I say. I won't call them tribes, but I will say, even when we talk about Black August, right? Part of our thing with Black August, when we commemorate Black August, I was the the East Coast coordinator of Black August Organizing Committee for years, which was birthed out of the Bay Area in California. But I'm pointing it out because every year we have hundreds of natives who join us in our commemoration. Folks like Warrior Woman and folks like Ernie Longwalker and so many others from the Lakotas and, all over from Arizona, or what is now known as Arizona, and places like Wyoming and North Dakota
Wow,
and
fascinating.
yeah, Chiapas and different places, different regions around the country. So um, for me, it is a common sense thing for us to organize with all indigenous and oppressed anti-fascist, anti-imperialist, anti-colonialist fashions around the world. So I've never been pigeonholed like so many of our folks. I don't go for the flavor of the month. In fact, folks often ask me, "Oh, what do you feel about this community?" Feel about I don't get into all of that. I don't say that I'm anti-fascist, I'm anti-imperialist, and I'm pro-human. So the thing is, we can go from there. If you are a part of an oppressive regime, then naturally, then we have a problem because I'm against oppression. So I don't get caught up in in the separation between the forces. Because that's what the state does, and I think that's one of the divide and conquer tactics.
No, fantastic, and I just hope that more people follow your example, and it would be much better if more, if more people power movements, including the best of the left, no matter the color, followed your lead on that. So thank you. That's great response. Now that's a perfect segue. You mentioned divide and conquer. You mentioned anti-fascism. That's a perfect segue then to this question, which is now we have covered the FBI's COINTEL program, before on the program, but can you talk to our audience about the FBI's COINTEL program, its ruthless war on the Black Power movement, the Latinx left movement, the Young Lords movement, the American Indian movement, and particularly the use of undercover agents who uh, who are from our community or other oppressed communities, but they infiltrate they infiltrate our communities. They infiltrate organizations. Happened with the Black Panthers. Happened with the Young Lords. Happened with the American Indian movement. Even happens with feminist movements. So I was wondering if you could, yeah. So I was wondering if you could talk about COINTELPRO and their particularly pernicious use of using people from our community to join organizations, infiltrate, and then you know, and then try to destroy people power movements from within. I'm curious your response to that.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, and I'm sure that you have a brilliant audience. So, most of your audience member already know what I'm talking about. So, but I will try to add on to what might not be known. Of course, the FBI's COINTELPRO, COINTELPRO stands for Counterintelligence Program. It was launched for all intents and purposes to, uh, in their words, expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize the activities of Black nationalists, quote unquote, hate type organizations and groupings, their leadership, the spokesmen, the membership, supporters, and basically to counter the propensity of violence and civil disorder. That's what they said. And of course, we know that it stemmed from J. Edgar Hoover, and J. Edgar Hoover goes back before he started the FBI. You can go back to him working with the Palmer raids and him working in the Library of Congress, creating index to quote unquote monitor communists, so on and so forth. So he goes back to, I believe, 1918, 1919, and he had a long history of declaring war, in all of these communities that you name. But when you talk about the Black community, any quote unquote African or Black person who existed from a Garvey to the Black Panther Party, they all felt the wrath of J. Edgar Hoover's mission. And I think that, of course, folks found out about the COINTELPRO files on March 8th, 1971, when a group known as the Citizens Commission to investigate the FBI broke in to an FBI office in Media, Pennsylvania. And they pretty much liberate thousands of files that outlined and documented the vast illegal operation known as COINTELPRO. I want to point out, because you mentioned like getting folks in the community, from working with, I've been blessed to work with so many different elders, so many quote unquote victims of COINTELPRO, and and just learning from them. I've heard stories of the FBI and undercovers joining groups like the Black Panther Party. And of course, there were situations where on the West Coast, where you have FBI agents who would date a sister who was serious about the movement. They would come into the movement, end up getting a sister pregnant, and later on you find out this is an FBI agent. You had undercover agents who were couples that came into the movement. The Baltimore chapter of the Black Panther Party was heavily infiltrated, if not started, by the FBI. You have what is this fool's name? Who was Malcolm's bodyguard? I can't think of it right off the bat. But of course, he was a bossy agent, a New York undercover cop, who also was working to infiltrate the Black Panther Party. So this is when you talk about the FBI, you talk about counterinsurgency and COINTELPRO, there are laundry lists of cases and whatnot. I mentioned the Palmer raids. That was a campaign that was launched in November 1919 and lasted to January 1920, with a series of different police agents. And they started this whole thing called the Palmer raids. It was like federal agents backed by local police, and they just pretty much bum rushed so many different types of individuals who were considered communists or anti-American, etc. I want to point out that when you talk about a cat like J. Edgar Hoover, I mentioned the whole Library of Congress. His work over within a decade time, he had indexed 450,000 names with detailed biographical notes, and they were written up on up until he had like 60,000 notes on these 450,000 individuals. So this is a cat who spent his career from his early years working to destroy, working to disrupt. He was a soulless individual. I would liken J. Edgar Hoover to as like some sort of Leopold of the United States, because he hated African people. He hated anyone that reminded him that America is supposed to be the home of the free and the brave, opposed to the thief and the slave. So I think that that was his mission. For all practical purposes, he got a hard on for the destruction of communities, of people, and he should forever be labeled a war criminal. He should forever be labeled a terrorist, and anyone that upholds that name should be looked at as aiding and abetting uh, terrorism, because that's exactly what he is. So may he rest in peace, I say, for all those who suffered from his devious behavior.
Or RIP, rotten pieces, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to point out too, because I think that when we talk about COINTELPRO, I want to give another example, because it wasn't just because folks often look at it like, oh, it was just after the Black Panther Party, or they were after folks who were quote unquote dangerous, the black, the Malcolm, so on and so forth. As late as September 12th, 2010, there's a newspaper in Memphis, Tennessee called the Commercial Appeal. And the Commercial Appeal reported that a famed photographer, a civil rights photographer that was well known by the name of Ernest Withers, was in fact an FBI informant, and he spied on Dr. Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement. He had famous photos ranging from the brutal murder of Emmett Till, 14-year-old Emmett Till in 1955, to the 1968 assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. He actually shadowed King the day before his murder, and he snapped all types of photos, and he told agents about meeting the civil rights and so-called suspected Black militants. I was interviewed in the final call that year to respond to a statement that Andrew Young made, civil rights activist Andrew Young, who's supposed to have been King's homie. He said that he said, I always liked Ernest Withers. And he said, because he was a good photographer, he said, I don't think that Dr. King would have minded him making a little money on the side. This is what Andrew Young said. You know what I'm saying? And this is documented, so we're talking about, there's so many levels and there's so many layers of counterinsurgency. I'm going to say this, Youri.
Yeah.
Myself, I've been organizing now for 38 years, right? I'm 53,
yeah.
right? And I have to tell you, and most people don't know this, I'm going to say this because of the fact that, folks know me from being behind the camera doing the interviews, but on a minimum, every month, I'm getting 15 to 20 interview requests. And this is from all over the world. And I turn down at least 90%. Why? Because I'm also clear that we are in the era of cyber counterinsurgency. We are in an era of cyber snitches and internet informants and teleterrorists and all types of other things. There's a lot of different bogus websites. I know that back in 2006, we had discovered that the U.S. military was actually paying bloggers to create bogus blog sites to discredit different groups and individuals. There was a study written for the U.S. Special Operations Command, which suggested clandestinely recruiting or hiring prominent bloggers. In 2006, a report for the Joint Special Operations University stated that blogs and military information strategy talked about how they were co-opting different bloggers and putting them on a payroll. If that was taking place in 2006, and here we are 18 years later, and everybody has a podcast, everybody has some type of social media presence, so on and so forth, we are clear that the internet is the best place to get it. I mean, we talk about the internet as a whole. The internet was created by the U.S. military. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we can't the thing is, we get stupid, and I know a lot of quote unquote activists, a lot of quote unquote folks who consider themselves freedom fighters and who are trying to get a name and trying to get fame and trying to get grants from every which way they possibly can. They're hungry. And this is when you are trapped. You fall into the snare, you walk right into the situation. And the next thing you know, you're bringing down the whole movement because you're weak. You asked me a question a little while ago about how do we unite these movements? What's it going to take? It's going to take political education. It's going to take a lack of ego. It's going to take us turning down funding from individuals we don't know. It's going to take us being serious about life, because once you're serious about humanity, then everything else is going to fall into place. But the fact that we're not serious about life, you have animals in animal jails, which they call zoos. You have fish in these big fish jails, which they call aquariums, that you go around the world to check out. I mean, you literally take a whale or a shark from one part of the world and put them in the middle of a fish tank in a fish bowl in the middle of Atlanta, and charge people to go see it. This is a society where, you have grave robbers who will go into sacred spaces, dig up the bodies of quote unquote pharaohs and royalties and so on and so forth, and parade them around the world, stick them in a museum so we can go take a look at them and say, oh wow, this is nice. Look at what, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's insanity as a whole. So if we can't do it, the basics, any thought of unity is held in a handbasket, you know, and everybody is concerned about their particular rights. You understand what I'm saying? That's why I say I'm against oppression. That's why I'm against tyranny, you know, because then and only then can we say, you know what, this is wrong in Gaza, it's wrong in Sierra Leone, it's wrong in Brooklyn,
Yeah.
it's wrong in Brussels, it's wrong in Paris. Wrong is wrong. It's not wrong um, over in the Ukraine because they're fighting Russia. It's not wrong in Haiti because you want to pretend that it's gang violence when it's really U.S. funded and U.S. backed propaganda, military might, finances, etc. You know, so we have to really, you know, we got to deal with this in a way where we all roll righteous. But right now, I think, you know, even the powerless move with the popular crowd. You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying? If they don't like Yuri's personality, then you know, yeah, man, you know, yeah, forget Yuri. You know, I'm not even gonna watch his show. Why? Yuri doesn't have 10,000 followers. He doesn't have 100,000 subscribers. So he can't be telling
Yeah.
the truth. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. No. No actually, wow. You opened up a whole can of worms there, but no, it's actually, when you were when you were talking about how the U.S. military is infiltrating the internet and is paying bloggers and basically making them become embedded junk journalists, not embedded journalists, embedded junk journalists,
Right.
and
Yes.
I don't know. It reminds me so much of how I read this book of Yasha Levine who did this fantastic book about how the internet was not this brainchild of geniuses like Bill Gates or Steve Jobs, that it was an entire military operation. And
Right.
you do have a lot of left leaning outlets who jumped the shark when it comes to imperialism, or they're selectively anti-war, not consistently anti-war. So they'll have you protest against the Iraq war, but they won't have you protesting against the war for oil in Venezuela, and they'll have you
So,
wanting to support non-existent moderate rebels in Syria. You mentioned Ukraine. They did a very good job convincing us that this is between us good Western liberals against
yes.
corporate fascists like Russians and so forth. So and then we see so many of these websites who talk a good game about being left. They advocate single payer healthcare. Some of them may be fantastic when it comes to anti-imperialist issues, but then the moment they start to be like I'm thinking about the pandemic, and some of them were like these anti-vax, these anti-vax extremists, and they were against lockdowns, but they didn't advocate that this is what the government should do. The government should give us universal basic income, should bail out small time businesses and so forth, not just let people go under. But instead, it was this whole thing of like COVID is just like a hoax and stuff like that.
Right.
And then
Right. Right. Right.
some of these other, leftists like starting to play footsie with like transphobia and so forth. And who knows? Maybe all of them just need more education. Maybe a lot of them just have libertarian blind spots or harbor heteronormative views. But you gotta wonder sometime, like, how is it that they're able to accumulate such a big following and then have such a reactionary right wing position on such and such a topic, or they just actually go with the flow and just go full fascism with a little bit of like leftist characteristics into it. So I'm curious your response on that before we get back actually into COINTEL.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, you know, honestly, you know, there is we say that you can be working for the state and know you're working for the state, or you can be working for the state by default. You know, so you know, I'm gonna take a note from their book, which I try not to, and say ignorance is no excuse, because the reality is at this stage in the game, you know, we'll find out, mark my words, a lot of these quote unquote leftists, a lot of them are going to leave you left in prison or left of the gas chamber. You understand what I'm saying? Because, it is, left of the gas ovens, because they are seriously working on the wrong side of the barricades. And I think that, even a lot of these folks that's yelling Black Power, it sounds good in theory. But, UEP Newton of the Black Panther Party, he said, a picture's worth 1,000 words. He said, I could talk all day. He said, don't watch what I say, watch what I do, because action is supreme. We have to ask ourselves, with all of these platforms, with all of these programs, with all of this different information, what is the purpose? What is the purpose? Are we leading people to liberation? The content we're providing, is it leading people closer to liberation, or are we trying to be left of the Breakfast Club? Are we trying to be the Charlemagne the God of, or the Wendy Williams of Black Power? We have to ask ourselves that. You understand? And it's like, the thing is, when you start to pose these questions, you become an enemy. Folks want to get rid of you because it's no more fun and games. We're serious now. You know what I mean? We know we're at war. I couldn't imagine, you know, families in Gaza right now on the internet playing games. I couldn't imagine them tweeting bullshit or talking about what Puffy's doing and all this other nonsense that literally is the sidetracking of the slave. You know, I couldn't imagine that. I couldn't imagine folks who are serious about being at war playing games. Where would they do that at? Would you think that would happen? I mean, that doesn't make sense.
It does baffle my mind sometimes. But it's interesting what you were saying, because I think I remember interviewing one of the new members of Black Power Media, Renee Johnston, and we were talking about why are supposed left-leaning anti-imperialists propping up a total idiot liberal, idiot libertarian grifter like RFK Jr. And like, regardless of all of the ridiculous polarizing stuff that came with that came with COVID, but the fact of the matter is that this is a guy that's supportive of Israel. This is a guy who's supportive of Israel. But it's not just that. I mean, if you look at like his program, like he doesn't even have like a socialist program that or some kind of a progressive left-leaning program like a Bernie Sanders, a Ralph Nader, a Dennis Kucinich, and I'm baffled by it, and I'm just quite baffled by that. But it also reminds me of how, like, the Young Turks were all, first they were pro-Obama, then they were anti-Obama, then like they prop up Bernie Sanders and so forth, and then Bernie gets cheated, and in the snap of a finger they're all for Clinton, and they're recycling CIA nonsense about the Russians helping Donald Trump win, when, come on, American fascism helped Donald Trump win, and and lots of
Yeah.
white
Yeah,
supremacist movements helped Donald Trump win, and so forth. And Hillary Clinton herself helped Donald Trump win when she wanted him to be like her opponent, as opposed to any of the other, fascist losers of the Republican Party, which is just too evil. But of course, both Democrats and Republicans, are enemies to our people and other people across the world. So it's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, we know that, American politics is a sad joke. I mean, it's satire. Again, it is a reflection of the brutal, rigorous task, concerted effort and task of miseducating the masses. It is the result of taking fool's gold, taking pyrite, and saying, listen, you want this. This has value. You understand what I'm saying? It's like taking, you know, I don't know, feces and saying, it's anything but what it is. It's shit. That's American politics. You understand what I'm saying? It goes back to what I was saying a few minutes ago. Everything about the US is performative. Even the quote unquote activism is performative. You know what I'm saying? If we are
Yeah,
honest with
no,
ourselves.
yeah. It's a harsh reality, but a lot of it is, what we call controlled, what we call controlled opposition, and it's and actually that's actually a perfect segue to a follow up question about COINTELPRO. Now, I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, but as somebody who has studied COINTELPRO, has done events about the FBI and the deep state, alongside others who are, as Glenn Ford would say, co-combatants in our war against white supremacy and so forth like that. I have to ask then, this question. Number one, when people say ignorant stuff like the Black Panthers were a reverse racist organization, or the Black Panthers and others were involved in violence. Now, of course, they did advocate that if the police or some other white supremacist punches you, you have every right to punch back. And if they're using guns on you, we have the right in their, I mean, even their constitution, even this white supremacist constitution says that we have the right to defend ourselves by any means necessary and so forth like that. But when people hear that overly simplistic and grossly distorted nonsense about the Black Panthers and other liberation organizations, is that part of COINTELPRO just dumping stuff like that in the New York Times, the Boston Globe, Life magazine, Time magazine, any of those corporate dailies to purposely, of course, deceive yeah, deceive
Yeah,
the
it
masses?
yeah, it is a form of counterinsurgency indeed, because you are miseducating, and that goes, even into the quote unquote school system, the academies, the universities. You know what I'm saying? These are corporations, and we have to be clear about it. You know what I mean? This isn't, some institute of higher learning. Stop playing games. It is a corporation. You have smaller corporations and you have larger corporations. You have HBCUs named after white folks, and you have the Yales and the what do you call those, Ivy Leagues, etc. Right? But
Harvard, Berkeley, MIT.
of of course. I mean, that's the job. That's what, keeps America going. America's a corporation. The United States is a corporation. When you talk about, you mentioned something you said about folks saying the Black Panther Party advocated violence, and I understand what you said when you said that, they said you can return or whatever, so on and so forth. Self-defense is not a violent act. You know what I'm saying? So that's the first thing. We don't look at self-defense. If I walk up to you and I punch you in your face, you know, you don't have to just sit there and hold your eye. You know what I mean? Your goal is to get me up off you. If I'm just beating you and beating you, you can sit there and pray all you want to. But if I'm preying on you, you don't have time to just sit there and I'm Muslim. I study Islam. So one of the things that we say is we trust in Allah, but we tie our camel. You understand what I'm saying? Tie your camel, but trust in the law. So it's like, I'm not going to leave my door open just because I'm a believer. I'm not going to leave my car wide open because, I have faith. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm not going to walk into a dark alley counting my money just because of the fact that, I'm confident with myself. That's not how it goes. You talked about them saying something else you said in the beginning.
that they were like
Um,
reverse racists or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. And of course, we know all that's it's total nonsense. If that was the case, there wouldn't have been uh, uh, a rainbow coalition, which was started by Chairman Fred Hampton and Jack by Jesse. You know what I'm saying? There wouldn't have been that. It wouldn't have been folks like Marlon Brando who put up money to get the Panthers guns and to help pay for the funeral of little Bobby Hutton, who was assassinated 2 days after Dr. Martin Luther King. So it's always gonna be some type of um, buffoonery and things to take the focus off of reality. And the reality is we're up against a criminal institution. And this criminal institution is multi-layered, is multifaceted. It exists all over the planet. You know, when we talk about white supremacy, it's not just, you know, because I got to remind folks as well, when we talk about white supremacy, we're not just talking about complexion. You understand what I'm saying?
Exactly.
White supremacy comes in, yeah, it comes in all shades from part of my English uh from house nigga black to bloody redneck. You understand what I'm saying? It is what it is. The shades are there. You know, so we don't get caught up in no, well, this police officer was black. Listen, he's upholding white supremacy, and that's what it is. You know what I mean? We
Yeah,
don't say, okay,
exactly.
well, yeah, this black police dog, we're just gonna let him bite us because he's black, and hopefully he'll have compassion and say, oh, I'm dark skinned too. Like, get the hell out of here. It doesn't work like that, you know? So we have to be clear.
Then that's a perfect segue because I've always wanted to ask this. Now, apparently, Sly and the Family Stone, the very popular very popular R&B early folk band from the late 60s and early 70s. Now, apparently Sly Stone was harassed by a lot of members of the Black Panthers for having a multiracial band. And Norman Lear, the creator and producer of shows like All in the Family, Maude, Good Times, and the Jeffersons, apparently when he did Good Times, which centered around a black working class family facing the daily issues that the black working class face, institutional racism, classism, and stuff like that. And apparently, he was visited by members of the Black Panthers who said to him, why are you only showing negative images of our people, negative images of our community? You know that we have black entrepreneurs, you know that we have successful black people. And apparently that was his inspiration for having the spin-off of All in the Family, which is the Jeffersons, which follows a successful black businessman. so, so
Black
so
capitalism, right? Yeah.
exactly, propping up black capitalism. So I got asked this question: is are those two examples of action of COINTELPRO, of undercover agents posing as Black Panthers, infiltrating the movement, and and engaging in in this kind of grifter behavior and this kind of bizarre behavior?
I think the question is, we have to first go to the source, right? And we know that unfortunately, it's funny you mentioned Sly and the Family Stone. I actually just hosted this event where he was supposed to have been performing a couple weeks ago in Selma, Alabama, but something happened and that didn't happen. But anyway, uh, what I would say to that is we know that Sly Stone, although I love his music, his politics sucks. And he was on
Okay.
plantation poison. You know what I mean? There's a clip of him and Muhammad Ali. I forget what show it was on. I believe it was Mike. What's his name? I can't think of the guy's name.
Mike Douglas.
I believe it was Mike Douglas,
Yeah.
but you can find it. Just type in Sly Stone and Muhammad Ali, and Muhammad Ali is talking about his blackness. He's talking about you know, him rejecting U.S. politics, and Sly's talking trash on the side, almost like he wants to try Muhammad Ali. Now, Muhammad Ali in his prime and Sly Stone is like Mike Tyson now and me. Don't get it twisted. I can fight. I'm good, but I'm not running up on Mike Tyson. I don't know what he could do, but I've seen his track record. You understand what I'm saying? So don't get it twisted. Does that mean I'm scared? No. If I had to fight Mike, then I'll be forced to do whatever I can do. However, I'm not going to look for Mike Tyson. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm going to try to avoid a fight with Mike Tyson because I understand he's dangerous. But looking at Sly Stone and Muhammad Ali, it was that interview that actually turned me off from Sly Stone. So again, a lot of these stories we hear, so on and so forth, was Sly high when he said this went down. You know what I'm saying? Norman Lear, you know, this great white man who pretty much has pimped black culture, everything from Good Times to, as you mentioned, the Jefferson to so many other shows. I can't even think of all the, the All in the Families and so many other things.
Stanford and Son, which I haven't seen. I haven't checked
Yeah,
out any episodes.
and I love Sanford Son with Red Fox. Red Fox, of course, was a friend of Malcolm X, right? Malcolm X said that Red Fox was the funniest dishwasher on the planet because they worked together, right?
Okay,
So
interesting.
yeah, they worked together, I believe, on a train. Uh they both worked in the kitchen, and Red Fox was a dishwasher. But my point in saying that, if you look at Norman Lear's work, although, you know, coming up in being black in the United States, coming up in the 70s and 80s, I loved watching Good Times. I love watching um, the Jeffersons, and because we were seeing black people on TV. And it wasn't like black folks were always on TV. So we come from an era when there weren't many black TV shows. So your families would watch these shows. And, Sanford and Son, I, to this day, I still watch Sanford and Son. It's like every episode, So the thing is, it's like, here it is, this guy pimped black culture. Now, what did he do for black culture? Provided entertainment, but he got rich. Did the actors get rich? You know what I'm saying? Most of the actors that you hear about from these shows, you know, most of them didn't have much money. And that's just the reality of things. So when asked those questions, if I don't see any evidence of it, I really can't, I can't say, is it counterinsurgency? The story itself might be counterinsurgency.
Interesting. So yeah, so that could be counterinsurgency because they're trying to depict the Black Panthers in a negative light
Yeah.
for
That's some brutes.
whatever
Yeah.
reason, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and the Black Panthers was an example of the black community. Everyone in the black community is not going to be a quote unquote go-getter. Everybody in the black community, some members of the Panther Party, they might have made sandwiches. Some sold newspapers, and then you had others who may have been fighters. But it didn't. Everybody in the Black Panther Party, because you had a black beret and a leather jacket and a powder blue shirt, didn't mean that you were, a warrior. Let's not get it twisted. That's like saying that everybody that says black power is into black power. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's for some, it's a slogan. It's a slick soundbite.
Exactly,
Some people go to
exactly.
protest to take pictures. You
Yeah,
know?
no, exactly. So interesting. So that's a lot to ponder about that. Then a lot to ponder about that, and I'll make sure to take both of those stories with a grain of salt. Then and and that's
And
actually
they may be true. I don't know. Perhaps I don't know. I don't know everything.
yeah. But that's a perfect segue then to this question, which is because COINTELPRO is basically state terrorism, and I'm curious, where do you stand on police state terror and how we overcome it? Are you for radical police reforms like demilitarizing the police, ending the drug war, repealing the Clinton crime bill, ending three strikes, ending broken windows theory, ending for-profit prisons, or do you or are you an abolitionist? And whatever answer you give, please explain why one over the other. Then,
Yeah, I mean, I'm, they say a wise man utilize all tools, right? Um, I might not be into marching anymore, but I understand that marching in the streets is a strategy of war.
yeah,
So I understand, so I don't have to agree with all the tactics. However, when you talk about something like demilitarizing police, that sounds great, but it's unrealistic. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, the US is a war machine. Around the world, they have close to 1,000 military bases in places that they don't even, have jurisdiction, quote unquote. What other country has close to 1,000 military bases around the world? Can you imagine any country in the world setting up a military base in the United States, it being 5% of the world population, but controlling 25% of all the resources on the planet? Do you think they're going to allow anyone to set up shop here? Hell no. You know what I'm saying? But they
exactly.
wanted to set up.
The U.S. went batshit just because just because the Soviets were going to put some nukes in Cuba. Meanwhile, they literally had like nukes pointed at Russia
Right,
via Turkey, which
right,
was a member of NATO, still is a member.
right, right. And trying to move into the Ukraine to get closer to Russia. So we know the deal. You know what I mean? But you know, so then they're mad at Russia because Russia wants to slap the Ukraine off the map after they already told them. But imagine the U.S. allowing, imagine Mexico allowing the U.S. I mean, Russia to set up shop in along the borders. Like, come on, man, let's stop playing games. But no, you're not gonna demilitarize the police. You're not gonna demilitarize the military. The United States, in the United States, the police is the military establishment of the law, of the armed forces. It is the local establishment. So we're clear that they have a role to play. You know, these are combatants, and in many cases, they are literally soldiers who went to war to come back to occupy the streets, the barrios, the hoods of the United States. So there's not going to be any demilitarization. That's like saying defund the police. You know what I'm saying? We're going to take the money and we're going to put it somewhere else. Where? If you took the money from the police, if you demilitarize, if you defund it, is that going to stop them from killing us? Are they going to say, oh, since they took all this money from us, we're no longer going to kill folks because they're going to put that money into a community center, or they're going to get basketball hoops for children in the hood? You know, I mean, like, are we serious, or is this some type of, comic relief? I think that we are silly in our thinking because to a great extent we think we're thinking. We come up with as Chairman Fred would say, conclusions that don't conclude.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't I mean, we're not thinking this thing all the way through. So yeah, I would love for them to demilitarize police. But even in the US alone, you have shit, hundreds of millions of guns on the streets of the United States. So how do you demilitarize anything?
Yeah.
The police, these white folks ain't letting you take their guns. Are you serious? What are you talking about? I live in the South. I live in Georgia in the United States. I live in Atlanta. I live in the same state where they hunted Ahmaud Arbery down. You understand what I'm saying? I live in the same city where the police murdered 92-year-old Katherine Johnston. You understand? This is where I live. You know what I mean? I live in the quote unquote headquarters of quote unquote Cop City. This is where I live. What guns are they taking? What demilitarize what? They're building a multi-million-dollar facility right here in the heart of Atlanta. So they don't care about this nonsense we're talking. They got cop cities all over the United States. They have military bases all over the world. So there'll be no defunding. There'll be no demilitarizing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So at best we can decentralize. So where do I stand? I stand yeah, I'm pro-abolition. We should abolish, but I would say we would have to abolish this system of capitalism, this system of imperialism, this system of colonialism. And right now, unfortunately, it's unrealistic as well because they're not going out without a fight. And that's the
Yeah.
bottom line.
And
They're not letting you take any of their stolen goods back.
yeah, no, and but then that's a perfect segue into this question, which is, do you think in order to get to a place of abolition, yeah, do you think if we talk about just the United States or even all of Turtle Island, so I would include Canada in that, do you think community control over the police, which was something that the late Glenn Ford, the late Bruce Dixon, I believe Margaret Kimberly still advocates it as well, at Black
Black Panther Party, yes,
yeah.
indeed. Yeah.
So do you think community control over the police is the best step to achieving social racial justice? I'm curious your response on that.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know it or not. I'm also the national coordinator for the National Coalition to Combat Police Terrorism, which is co-chaired by veteran Panther Dhoruba Ben Wahad and former U.S. Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney. And
Yes.
one of the things, yeah,
Yeah.
so we advocate for community control of public safety. We advocate for a residency clause where police should live in the neighborhood they serve for a minimum of 3 to 5 years. We advocate getting rid of police chiefs and creating a board elected by the people. We feel that if the community itself, if you live in the actual community, if Youri lives in, um, in my neighborhood, he's less likely to run amok because now your son and my son, they go to school together. We go to church together. We see each other in the grocery store. You don't want no problem. You like your eye? Good. I like mine too. You understand what I'm saying? So it's different. It's a little different when you got to see me all the time. You know what I'm saying? But if you are just stopping through and treating us like, operating as some type of occupied forces, then it's different because you just coming to get your check and anyone gets in your way, you're going to blast them. You're going to make an example of folks, snatch some folks up, kidnap them, lock them up, give them 20, 30, 40, 60, 80, death penalty, whatever the case is. But you're not doing that in your own neighborhood. You understand what I'm
and
saying?
that's police officer that would have to live in the neighborhood. It could be South Central, it could be Harlem, it could be uh,
Why not?
Baltimore, it could be DC, wherever you're based in ATL. Uh,
Right.
Now, some people would say, but you would now some people would probably push back and say, well, what's the point? Because so the police lives in the same neighborhood as you or I. They could still act like they can still act like the terrorists they are with impunity. But if you had community control over the police, no, like the community, like the elected body that hires the police would vet them thoroughly, so that one would hope they don't abuse their power. But even if they do abuse their power, off they go, right? Or
Right. Yeah. Because now you have these true elected officials who will who have the authority and the power to hire and fire. So it's a tad bit different. You know what I mean? So no more can you murder uh, uh, 12-year-old Tamir Rice, 11-year-old Tamir Rice in Cleveland, Ohio, and get a job 30 miles away. And it should be noted that Tamir Rice, the uh, the officer who murdered him, was just fired from another police department 30 days prior. So he got that job. Well, it might have been a few months. I'm sorry if I'm misquoting, but he was fired from one particular jurisdiction and one particular city and rehired where he killed this 12-year-old boy. You understand what I'm saying? Because he thought he had a gun because he's running in the playground and allegedly had a plastic gun. You
yeah,
know what I mean? So you roll up and you gun him down because a 12-year-old black boy in America looks like a 800-pound silverback with an AK-47 to the racist regime and the police as a whole. So indeed, there's always going to be pushback. There's going to be naysayers about everything. You know what I mean? But who cares about that? I mean, we live in a quote unquote two-party system where you really don't have a choice on whether you want Youri or Kalonji. You know,
exactly.
we're the same. We're kicking it, you know what I'm saying? And everything's cool. And now we got to play it off like it's an actual election, so on and so forth. And, we're going to give you the opportunity to vote for the choices that we gave you. That's the insanity behind that. The fact that they give you, we don't know none of these motherfuckers. Part of my English. We don't know none of these motherfuckers, but we're like, you can vote for this one or you can vote for that one. And you're just like, I'm gonna vote for him because he's worse. Why is he worse? Because he talks louder? Because he's more
Fact.
blatant with his shit? Right. So instead of him raping you straight up, he's gonna kiss on you and everything like that, as if you still wanted to be assaulted. Like, no, it's okay. Let me rub you. Like, nah, I don't want you to touch me. You know what I'm saying? No, it's okay. It's okay. So the guy, like, look, this is what's happening. I'm coming. You know what I'm saying? This is the United States. That's U.S. politics right there. So, but we want to pretend as if we have a choice in the matter, and hey man, that's cool. Let's play this game, and until we get off the plantation.
Yeah.
You know.
All right, so community control over the police. Yeah, that's I have to say I also think that community, as somebody who is more and more open to the idea of abolition and has had many abolitionist voices, on the program. I've read, all of Andrea, Richie's books about it, but I still do think that the only way forward for racial justice, social justice, ending police terror, I think community control over the police is still the necessary step to get there. And hopefully, because we can't just, because as you say, like we can't just go after, police terror is just one element of
Right.
white supremacy, of this unjust, ghastly system we call capitalism. I prefer to call it capitalism. So,
Right.
so that's just one element on top of the fact that we do need a redistribution of the wealth, and we do actually need proper single payer healthcare system and end this the for profit system of
Mhm.
education, the for profit system of pharmaceuticals, the for profit system of all that, all that bad jazz, because jazz is good music, but all that bad jazz.
Yes. Yes.
so
Yes. Yes. Yes.
so
No,
then
I
so then
agree. I agree.
so then that's a perfect segue then to this question, which is, now a lot of the groups, so the organizations that that you're part of, and a lot of the groups that you meet with and organize with, are a lot of them demanding the kind of radical reforms I mentioned in the previous question, like demilitarizing the police, repealing the Clinton crime bill, ending three strikes laws, ending for-profit prisons, three strikes, and so forth. Are a lot of them involved in that kind of radical reform, as well as constitutional reforms, like ending the loophole in the 13th Amendment, which says the moment you're convicted of a crime, you're a slave to the state? And if the answer is no, why do you think that is? And uh, I'll throw in one last question. Sorry about that. And and
That's all
actually,
good.
and actually, are you of the opinion? And actually, are you of the opinion, like Geechee Ya of also of Black Power Media, co-host of Earn Your Liberation, who says, forget the Constitution. We actually need a a whole new Constitution. So I'm curious your response to to all of those questions.
Yeah. So I think that I like to believe that I organize with serious organizers. So the answer would be yes to that question. Um, because I have comrades from all walks when it comes to that, because we're clear that we are up against one enemy. So our position is one nation, one gun. So we know that, in my opinion, if you are for animal rights, then you should probably be anti-death penalty. If you are for certain things, you know, we try to bring it home. If you're for the environment, you should be, you know, for life, period. So um again, we don't get caught up in the whole dividing of forces. You know,
Mhm.
I like to deal with people who are clear about the politics, who the enemy is. You understand what I'm saying? If you're not clear about who your enemy is, then you'll be confused. And then you get caught up into arguing if you're a reverse white supremacist and all this other bullshit. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So, so we so I unite with that. In regards to the whole tear up the US Constitution, I think it's deeper than that. I think an end to imperialism as a whole is required. You can have anything written on a piece of paper, it doesn't mean jack shit. You understand? You can, I mean, what is a law? The United States and most of Europe, every law they created, they broke first, and they continue to break. You know what I
exactly.
mean? think of one and name it, and they've already done it, been there, done that, and continue to. So the thing is, it's like, you know, some things I don't even get into. I'm not even, you know, the 13th Amendment sounds good, so on and so forth. Okay, great. I know that whether it's written on paper or not, here in the United States, they see me as an indentured servant, a slave, three-fifths of a human, and all types of other uh, derogatory positions, right? So I have to be clear that these uh, people, if we call them that, are anti-life. They're anti my existence. You know, so I don't have time to be concerned with what you wrote on paper. The reality is how you deal with me in real life. You can create all kinds of laws. I don't get caught up into the I forgot what they call it. Is it CRT? What's
Critical
the name of the
CRT.
critical race theory?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
critical race theory. Yeah, I'm into critical revolutionary theory. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about revolution. I don't care about you learning if these white kids over here or these little black children don't know what happened or who discovered America and all that other craziness, then that is a failure on the household. You know, so the state itself, again, we get caught up in sidetracking of the slave. They're arguing with you like, we're going to take this out of schools. I don't need my child to learn about revolution in school because I understand that the school is a state institution. You know what I mean? So to force them to teach me or miseducate my child is a ridiculous notion. But they'll argue back and forth with you because of the fact that they want to take you off real shit. You
yeah.
know, bullshit is fashionable and sexy, but real shit, it requires work. You know what I'm saying? It's blood, sweat, and tears. So I don't really care what you can write what you want to on paper. You know, it's all toilet paper at the end of the day, just a little rougher.
So at the end, so it sounds to me as if yes, it's obvious that that we do need to that okay if people do want to focus their energies on constitutional reforms or
Mhm.
repealing regressive, racist, neo-Keynesian classist laws, okay, have added, but but it sounds to me as if what you're saying is well, we basically need a revolution. We need a revolution of the minds, and we need and this whole construction of America, which is a settler colonial project and an ongoing, apartheid state, neo Jim
Mhm.
Crow state. That well, I mean, yeah, that everything about
It's
like
it's
the
it's
U.S.
it,
right now needs like a whole new makeover and a proper makeover, not
yeah, yeah.
right.
It's yeah. It's Israel's side piece. That's what America is. It's Israel's side piece. You know what I'm saying? It's not even they have a thing going on. That's what it is. It's the same program. It's a reflection. And some people may say, well, the United States is bigger than it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? It's where where's the mindset? You know, who's pulling the strings and where? So it's one big, they're conjoined twins at least. So the thing is, we understand to your question, you know, I'm a lover of peace.
Yeah,
This is why we're here. This is what that's what revolution is to me. You know what I'm saying? It is us regaining our peace. It's not about me hating anyone. It's not about me wanting to destroy and want to. No, I want to destroy oppression. I don't care about, the white man. Great. I'm against imperialism. I'm against capitalism. I'm against I'm anti-fascist. I want peace. That's what we're here for. To quote our good friend Yasser Arafat, I come with the olive branch in one hand and a 38 in the other. Don't make me drop the olive branch. You understand what I'm saying? So
yeah,
that's how I feel about that. So this is all this other, again, it's sidetracking. I don't know how old you are, but for me, at 53, the one thing that I require and demand in this stage of my life is peace. interrupting my peace upsets me. I will fight for my peace. That's all I want. I don't need, you know what I mean? I'm not asking anyone for anything. I just want my peace. You know what I mean? But some of these folks want to take a piece, but I just want my peace. Let me live in peace. Let my people be comfortable. And you don't have no problem with us. You know what I'm saying? It's like whatever else you're doing, knock yourself out the box. But just don't interrupt my peace. You disrupt my peace, and then, I'll assume that you don't value peace. So we have to switch up. And again, like I said earlier, man, self-defense is not a violent act.
And
I
and
must
actually,
protect my peace.
in fact, funny that you mentioned that. I'm thinking of my friend Eve Angler, a frequent guest on the program, great Canadian historian, NGO critic, media critic, anti-imperialist thinker, and he has he advocates that that international relations should be based on first do no harm.
Right, right.
And
Start with that.
what you were just outlining right there, I think that's yeah, I think that's it in in a nutshell. And that is a perfect segue to this question, which is uh now I think clearly now clearly the groups you bounce with are demanding that you know if we want to end the police, we also and defund it, demilitarize it, whatever, we also have to call for, we also should be calling for the abolishing of the CIA, the NSA, and the U.S. military. Now, I'm going to take a wild guess and say that the groups you bounce would certainly advocate that. They know that that you can't just eradicate white supremacy on the borders of Turtle Island, the U.S. We also have to eradicate the system of capitalism, and imperialism is the highest stage of capitalism, as Lenin says. Now, if there are other black led groups which are advocating for defunding the police, abolishing the police, or just radical reforms, but they're not talking about ending the U.S. military, ending the CIA, ending the NSA, which are the police on steroids. I mean, that's J. Edgar Hoover on steroids. Why do you think some of those groups aren't advocating for abolishing those those alphabet terrorist groups?
I think the same reason why a lot of these groups, why the majority of these quote unquote left groups aren't promoting survival preparedness. We are preppers with politics, we like to say. You know what I mean? I co-chair another organization called Urban Survival Preparedness Institute. And what the deal is, it's like we know that certain things are inevitable, but just something as simple as prepping, being prepared, you know, we're prepared with our notes, we're prepared with our quotes, we're prepared with our jokes and our hopes. But when it comes to getting prepared for our lives and our livelihood, you know, we all out of time. You know what I mean? That's too difficult. Or we think that certain things can't happen. I've heard people say that we don't have to train. Oh, okay. Well, cool. That's how you feel about it. Then knock yourself out the box. You're not going to defeat imperialism just by laying down and singing "We Shall Overcome." That's not going to happen. You will continue to get what we've always got. But when it comes to abolishing those particular tentacles, you know, I know that just saying abolish or just saying that we have to end it won't be enough, because the thing is we have to be clear that in any criminal settler state, any imperialist uh, uh, nation, any hegemonic nation, we know that they have to have some type of counterinsurgency. They have to have, secret police, quote unquote, because that's what keeps things in check. No matter how much they say that they are socialists or they this or they that, you know what I'm saying? We clear that there's always going to be spies spying on the spies that spy on the spies. You know what I mean? Now, if we think not, then okay. We're on YouTube, I suppose, that this program will end up.
Yeah.
And we know that it's it's the NSA. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. It's not, we can act like whatever we want to. Sounds good. We're talking, and as long as, they allow us to talk before they give us a strike or shut it down or whatever the case is, then that's that. So, you know, we right now, courtesy of the internet, not going back to the whole COINTELPRO thing, but it's a do-it-yourself Fed file. That's what social media is. It's a psychological profile. You got folks, you got to tell them everywhere they at. I'm over here chilling with such and such. I'm drinking this. I'm eating this. I mean, you giving them all the joints. All they got to do is slip you something in your drink because you already told them everything you like to drink. They know where you're going to be. They know what you like to eat. They know who you like. You know what I'm saying? They know what turns you on. It's like, so how serious are we? Would you purposely give your enemy information on your whereabouts and what you like, so on and so forth? So we are self-destructive to a great extent. Many of these organizations are funded by their enemy.
Yeah.
I had someone from a former organization, a former member of an organization, tell me that their leadership said that they had to sever ties with me because their funders told them that they can't really fund them because I'm too serious and I'm too militant. You understand what I'm saying? So I was wondering, I'm like, man, this particular, these individuals, this organization, it was cool. I mean, what happened? So now, I'm understanding, but this is taking place, mark my words, you're going to see more of that. You're going to see more of that. There's going to be more distancing. There's going to be more badjacking. There's going to be more of what COINTELPRO is all about. And if we're not careful, we will misunderstand and we will chalk it up as personality differences. We'll chalk it up as, oh, this one's a hater and all this type shit. No, that's not it. That's not it. We have enemies amongst us. And that's the stone cold truth. And soon, and the Christians had a song, soon and very soon, we are going to see the king. Soon and very soon, we're going to see that all that glitters ain't gold. And that's the reality of it. But this is what comes with war, as Imam Jamil Al-Amin, formerly H. Rap Brown, would say.
Yeah, no, and yes, we do have a lot of enemies. Yeah, we do have a lot of enemies from within, and I know it's sometimes does depress people and makes people go, oh, there's no way I want to join people power movements, but freedom is freedom is a constant struggle, and just people just have to be aware of it. And sometimes, I mean, uh, you know. Uh, we teach kids, and we always and when women are looking out for one another, or when even brothers are looking out for one another, what's the one thing that we often say to them? Be careful who you trust. Be careful how much you even reveal. Be careful about like
Man,
because
listen,
yeah, because yeah, sweet dreams are made of these, right?
hey man, Abel had a brother named Cain.
Yeah, exactly. But then, does that mean that? But it sounds to me though as if like our people power movements. Uh, but it sounds to me as if like our people power movements. Would you say that all of us have to step our game up?
Yeah, it is a people powerless movement, and you know we have these fictional uh fictional movements, because we even look at there's a rap group, and I always quote them on this one line. um they're called Little Brother. They're out of North Carolina, and I don't know if you know Little Brother, but they have on one of their songs,
Uh-huh.
they say, do you really want to win, or do you want to look good losing? And I feel like Africans around the world, we don't necessarily want to win, but we look damn good losing. We got all the fly militant shirts on. We know everybody's joint. We changed our names. We got natural hair, and we could talk some left talk, and You know, we can collect some money. We can be funded by all these different formations, so on and so forth. We can do some uh, seeming community work. You know, we can mimic the Black Panther Party and all these
We
other
can even
formations that came
we can
before us.
even manage to get millions of people onto the streets.
Absolutely, absolutely, and garner hundreds of millions of dollars. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, all of that can happen, but it's all game. Right now, you have what I call uh man, I'm sorry. It's more the militants are more entertaining these days. You know what I'm saying? This is you know, they're professionals. They are you know, it's you know, they're corporate, you know, because that's what it's all about. It's about fashionable militancy. It's about, you know, saying things that sound good and you know and acting like it feels good. You know, acting like we're advancing because you know, we have some type of politics. So all we do is sell people shit. So we're like, you know, another form of capitalism. You understand what I'm saying? We're pushing a brand. And a lot of these quote unquote folks that you're seeing these days, you know, they are serious pop culture, they have serious pop culture politics. You know what I'm saying? It looks good in theory because they're cute. You know, the words sound good. You know, their rap game is on point. You know, but at the end of the day, what are they doing to liberate us? If all you have to offer me has to be for sale, then we have a problem. If the
Interesting.
only time I
So
could see you, I gotta pay to see you, I gotta pay to read all your material. Everything it's a game. It is a game, and that's what's going on. So there's no real movement right now.
so so so
It's a
so so
vile movement. Go
so
ahead.
so do you find it sounds to me as if like that's a message to, you know, people in the sort of independent left world, the or some who are in the kind of like nonprofit media industry, some who sadly have jumped the shark on a lot of things, the same kind of groups that say that you got to vote for lesser evil as opposed to Party for
Yes.
Socialism and Liberation and the Green Party. And
My my yeah.
so would you say, as somebody who is a longtime grassroots organizer as well as a founder of an independent media outlet, uh, be careful, folks. Be careful what you're doing. Be careful
Yeah.
how you're doing it. And yeah, I'm curious your response to that.
My my IG handle is who he talking to. So I always say, let's end the speculation. I'm talking to all of y'all. So everybody that's watching this joint right here, some of y'all, like they said, hit dog will holler. Some of you are part of grifting organizations, and some of you don't like cats like me because of the fact that I remind you what this thing is supposed to be. You know, see, I don't care who like me and who don't because I have a history. I got a track record. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't have to name drop. I don't have to do any of that. You can watch RSTV and you could tell I have a relationship with the majority of people that I bring on board. Why? Because I worked. They know me from being on the ground in the streets. So I'm not just doing this for the sake of doing it. And to be quite honest with you, my intentions on Black Power Media or any other social program or even yours here. This is about propaganda. This is about political education. You know what I'm saying? This is a selfish endeavor right here. I'm on your show today because of the fact that the people need to know that that we are in a crisis and that it is necessary for us to understand what's real and what's Memorex. You understand what I'm saying? Take the personalities out of this. Take who's cute and who's more aligned with the state out of this. Take the titles up out of this. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what your title is. Doctor, professor, attorney, you know what I'm saying? Freedom fighter, landlord, proletariat. None of that shit matters at the end of the day. It's what you do. What do you do with what it is you have? You know what I'm saying? You can call yourself a revolutionary all day long, but if you ain't making revolution, then you're not a revolutionary. I can call myself a chef. I could be Chef Kalonji and can't even boil water. You understand what I'm saying? I don't even
Yeah.
know how to get to the kitchen. You understand what I'm saying? So we got to be clear that we can't see. The thing is, we're in the conditions and the situation we're in right now. because we're looking for the silver lining. We're looking for the sex appeal. We're looking for the things that attract us because we're at war against capitalism. So we're looking for an alternative to capitalism. You understand what I'm saying? It's like going from being a meat eater to, okay, I'm eating plant-based foods. Okay, you're eating these veggie burgers, you're eating these veggie chicken sandwiches because it reminds you of what you used to eat. So you're looking for a healthy alternative. That's okay. I understand that. I'm not knocking that. However, in movement, it don't go like that. You understand what I'm saying? You can't get plant-based capitalism. You know what I'm saying? It don't make sense. You can't get an alternative to white supremacy by making it black supremacy. I mean, it makes no sense. It's crazy. So we have to be clear about, because when it comes to the state and when it comes to imperialism, they'll package it however you like it. You understand what I'm saying? It's like prostitution. You know what I'm saying? They, what you like? Okay, you know what I'm saying? What your money look like? We can do it for you. I hate to
Exactly.
talk in those terms, but it's just the reality of this thing. So capitalism is a pimp hoe system. And unfortunately, we are the hoes.
And well, yeah, I got no follow up. I got no follow up for that, but no, we have.
And I'm sorry for all the cursing on your
I
platform,
think
man.
I think in a nutshell, what you're saying is, we gotta wake up and we gotta get our shit together. And I know I was talking to a comrade the other day who says that the left, however you want, the left-minded people, left-leaning people have to
Right.
study more about propaganda and this ghastly state that we call capitalism in all of its different forms, because they got their tentacles everywhere, and they can just endlessly do divide and conquers, and it works, and it's at our own peril that we don't that we don't do, as you say, political education. So
Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna win, as Kwame Ture would say. We're gonna win in spite of ourselves. I think the thing is, um, and I've been referencing church a lot today. Excuse me.
no
Um,
problem, no
but
problem.
yeah, when I was a child, I used to go to my grandmother's church, and one thing the pastor would say, he'd say, "It's getting late in the evening," and I didn't know what it meant when he was saying it's getting late in the evening, but right now it's getting late in the evening, meaning that this crisis is coming to a head, and we are witnessing uh, genocide in real time. We can actually watch it every day. We can watch the genocide of men, women, and children, while uh, the many of the nations that we live in and under are sponsors of this terrorism. You're in Belgium, correct? Or
Belgium, and yes, I jokingly now say about Belgium that we are the belly of the beast, because NATO is headquarters here. The European Union, for people who are critics of the European Union,
yes,
as a
yes.
neoliberal organization, I live in the center of pan European imperialism. It's evil, and so many people here are also completely
But not
at the wheel about it.
yeah, but not only that, we can take it back historically. We talk about the Congo, right?
Yes, and
Who's
yes, and you've interviewed members of the Lumumba family as well. So yeah, yeah.
yes, yes, yes. So who's that famous character from Belgium? Can't even think his name right now. In fact, I think I might have mentioned him earlier.
Leo,
Was it Leopold?
yeah, Leopold II, the butcher of
Yeah,
Congo. Yeah.
yeah. So I mentioned him earlier without even realizing that you were, from there. And I have a friend that's in Belgium, and I was telling her in Brussels, I'm like, listen, and she's from the Congo, and she didn't know about Leopold. I'm like, listen, this is, you got to be clear. You went from one space to you went further into the oven, But the thing is, we had to be clear about all of these war criminals because, folks talk about Hitler, but Leopold is like absent without leave when you're talking about terrorists. I mean, the massacres and the genocide he committed make Hitler look like Charles Manson. You know what I'm saying? In
Yep.
comparison.
Same with Christopher Columbus, and same with the founding
Absolutely.
fathers, who the late Glenn Ford said called those miserable sons of a bitches.
Yeah.
And yet we still have people who
Glenn was a
want,
wise man.
and yet I know, not not going to say names, but I know actual like white Marxists. For like, I'm not talking about white liberals. I'm talking about like white Marxist, white socialist, Marxist, Trotskyists, whatever you want to call it, who still lionize the founding fathers and get upset if you talk about honest Abe Lincoln, who was a butcher of Native Americans and actually wanted a white only America state and get those slaves off to Liberia. So yeah,
I
we
know.
got
Yeah, yeah,
lots of
yeah, yeah.
we have lots of decolonizing of the mind to do, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I got about a good 10 minutes with you, my guy. I have to roll on, have
Alrighty.
another
Well,
interview.
well,
I didn't realize I booked interviews back to back tonight, and I didn't realize that.
alrighty. Well, we usually end the program doing the questionnaire, which was started by Marcel Proust, later the French broadcaster Bernard Pivot, and then my hero, the late James Lipton of Inside the Actor Studio. Mr. Changa, it's your turn to do this before you have to go. What is
Okay.
your favorite word?
Favorite word, peace
What is your
or
least
love.
uh, peace and love? What is your least favorite word?
My least favorite word is reform.
What turns you on spiritually, emotionally, or psychologically?
Uh, what turns me on? Spiritual, psychological.
Spiritually, emotionally, or psychologically, or all of the above.
Oh, peace.
All right. And what is your favorite curse word?
My favorite cuss word. There's a tie, but it have the word fuck in it somewhere. So I would say motherfucker.
Yeah, actually, the F word is my favorite word. My favorite curse word is an Italian one, vaffanculo. Then, what
Okay.
sound or noise do you love? Followed by what sound or noise do you dislike?
Hmm. Sound of noise I love and sound of noise I dislike.
Yeah,
That's really man. Sound of noise I love. Hmm.
hip hop, the ocean, good music in
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
general, or
Oh, okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, jazz music. I'm a fan of Eric Dolphy, you know, Muddy Waters, folks like that, blues, so yeah, I would
then
say
then
music.
what sound or noise do you dislike then?
What sound of noise I dislike? Uh some days I would say my email or my phone ringing. So yeah, it's probably a tie on that, you
I
know.
must admit, I also don't like the sound that it makes. it always gives
Yeah,
me a heart attack.
yeah, yeah. I
then
usually keep it off. Yeah.
then what profession, if you weren't doing the fantastic work you're doing, including being an educator, like I'm learning so much from you right now. So so if you weren't doing that, if you weren't doing the great activism you do, the journalism and so forth, what profession would you like to attempt to do?
I'd probably be a comedian.
You would be a very dope stand-up comedian. Then what
You
profession
look
would you
like I threw
abs-
you off at first, like you was expecting something else. But go ahead.
then what profession would you absolutely not want to do under any circumstances?
Be the police.
Good answer. And final one before I let you go. If heaven exists, what would you like to if heaven exists, what would you like God to say to you as you arrive at the pearly gates, or whatever is your vision of the afterlife? And even if you're an atheist, please answer this question.
What would I like God's God to say when I enter the pearly gates?
Yeah,
Um, good effort.
good effort.
Yeah. I would like that. That would be cool. I mean, that's, as long as, my goal is just that, to make the best effort I can. I am far from perfect. I am a man of error in every era. And just being grateful. So I think that yeah. So if I can know that my efforts were good, my intentions were understood, then that would be great.
I'm pretty sure he, she, or they, or several of them would say your efforts would say that your effort was good enough. Well, we were joined on this edition of 1+1 with Kalonji Changa. He is the host of Renegade Siafu on Black Power Media, co-founder of Black Power Media, and he is a long time still a brilliant long-time social racial justice activist, anti-imperialist journalist, black leftist, a social justice warrior. Mr. Changa, thank you
Let me
so
make it
much.
easy for you.
Um,
I'm an African. I'm just an African. Yes.
Mr.
Let
Changa,
me make it
thank
really.
you so much for taking the time. I look forward
Thank
to
you,
having
Youri.
you back on in the future. I hope as a regular. Until then, keep doing the great work you're doing, and all my best to you. And yeah, power to the
I
people.
appreciate you,
That's a
Youri.
white
Yes, sir.
supremacy.
Without a doubt. Peace to you, Youri.